Welcome, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Michael Boyd. I live in Lexington, South Carolina. So not Lexington, North Carolina. Apparently, there's a shortage of names for cities, and so they just often, Lexington sounds good, so we'll just add another Lexington to another state. I'm originally from Florida. If there's anyone from the Central Florida area, that's where I was born and raised. But we've been in South Carolina for the last couple of years. It's been great. I work for a company called Novatics. Novatics is based out of Utah, and we have an asset management software application called Elements XS, which will be featured in today's demonstration. But the hope is that you can take some of the stuff that's presented and apply it to your current asset management system. And if not, feel free to come by the booth that we have here at the exhibit hall, number 28. It's on the right side once you walk in. So anyways, I'm glad to be able to be here with you. I'm going to have a short PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll get into some demonstrations. First of all, I'm assuming most of you know what a workflow is, okay? Maybe, and a workflow can mean different things for different organizations. We're going to be focusing primarily on like public works, utility systems, and workflows, in other words, like a business process. So for example, when somebody gets a request from an outside source, maybe a citizen on an app says that there's a graffiti or something like that, what is the process where that request comes in through our organization and somebody goes out to handle that, whether through an inspection or for some other matter, finishes that up, if there's any follow-up actions that occur as a result of it. Anyways, you have kind of a beginning to end would be the workflow process. The goal is to simplify it. We want to make it quick and easy for the person out in the field because not all of us are tech savvy. Some of us are close to retirement in some cases, or maybe have done things a certain way and don't want to be able to hit a lot of buttons on a phone or a device. So we want to be able to simplify that process in order to streamline it and as a result collect better data. So some principles involved. We have many different people at different stages. There are ways that we can do it both manually and automated. We want to be able to set up a lot of automated type steps. And a lot of that happens on the back end. And so you'll see some examples of that, some automation that has been put together on the back end to make it simple for the person out in the field so that they can be able to see what they need to move on. There are workflow designers out there. Drag and drop are kind of the best types of designers out there. This is an example. ArcGIS Workflow Manager, some of you might be familiar with. This is the workflow designer that will be kind of featured in the back end of today's presentation. So we're going to look at water systems, street maintenance, sewer systems, and more. So hopefully you'll be able to get some ideas to take back with you. All right, so I pre-recorded this because you know how these live demonstrations typically go. I didn't want to be able to have some issues, so I'm going to kind of talk over this as it plays. But as we get into it, I want to kind of show you what is more the manual process of doing a work order, and then we'll look at how we can streamline that through using GIS and our workflow designer to kind of speed up processes. That is kind of a home dashboard that a lot of CMSs have. It kind of gives us an idea as to what work is going on in the system. You can see that on a desktop or possibly on a mobile version. This particular system adapts to the device that it's on. So I just kind of wanted to show you kind of how that would look mobilely. But we're going to switch to the maps because I know most of you are eager to look at things related to a map-based process. So here is my map viewer. I have different options for workflows at the very top of my screen, making it easy and quick for somebody to get to the information that they want to get to. So we have different departments: water, wastewater. You're probably looking at a system administrator that has access to a lot of different things. In this case, the user is looking at what work do I have assigned to me today. So I can see on a map across my organization that there are these work orders in these different parts of the city, okay? And then clicking on the map, I can see what I need to do and then access that just by going to the details of that particular work order. Color-coded might represent different things, maybe the status of that particular work that's going on. So I just want to kind of give you an idea as you click on something. This is the work order that might pop up, and just for someone who goes and gets that done, okay? But then we're going to switch gears to something that is more of creating work for somebody to go out and do something. And this would be turning on the water system for that more manual process. So I'm going to zoom in here on the map, get to my water system, click on an asset. That'll give me a host of details about that asset. I can see the GIS information by clicking on there. I can edit it based upon user permissions, and that's going to update it in real time. This is a live read to ArcGIS, so we're not synchronizing data and having issues that way. But in this case, I want to look at the work history on this particular asset. It's showing me when I've had flow tests, different repairs, different things like that going on, conditions, scoring, business grits, repair costs versus replacement costs. These are the different types of work that I do on this particular asset. Of course, user definable according to organizations. The type of work that you do in your company might be different than this particular demo site that I'm utilizing here. So this is the actual work order. A lot of systems portray this in different ways. So this is how this particular system shows you where the asset is, who it's assigned to, maybe attaching pictures or video about this particular asset, what status it is in, if this is attached to it, maybe a particular project that we're working on that we want to get reimbursed for or we're tracking. Maybe the worker is going in and adding some notes about the particular job to give an idea of what the status is on this particular work order and why it hasn't been closed out. So I hope to get through this pretty quickly because, a lot of systems have very similar information, just maybe captured in a different way. They're tracking what information needs to go in about doing this particular task. This is a flow test. I'm not going to fill in all those details, but I am going to mark that it does need repair because this might be important to my workflow. That might trigger a follow-up action I'll show you here in just later. I can manually add materials to this particular job, identify what vehicle it came from or where I located it, the quantity that I'm using. That's more of a manual process. We want to be able to speed that up as well. That could be done through what we call our inventory kits, predefined sets of kits information, in this case, materials, labor, equipment that we predefine for particular jobs. When people go out, it's always this set of materials, this crew, what have you, and then with just a few clicks of the button, it populates within there what is being utilized. Now, in this case, I can edit the information. I can maybe add another person that was there that's not in my kit. Maybe I can add somebody or the same person later on who comes back on a different day. So at the end of the day, we have a total cost for that job. I'm going to go ahead and kind of complete it out and then save it and then go back to my my history page. In this case, I'm looking at this particular thing being ready to review. So if I save that and I had set this up correctly and I didn't, this might change assignments, okay? And it didn't change assignments, it just went to the same person. But if there was a ready to review assignment that changed where it should go, then it might go to a supervisor or something in that case. Okay, now I'm going back to my history page. This is going to show me the flow test that I just performed. Okay, and you notice when I was doing that work, I marked it as this hydrant needed repair. Okay, so in the workflow that has been set up, this particular, when this button is checked, and it needs to trigger this event in the software. Okay, and this has been identified that when you check this box of needing repair, it automatically schedules a repair for the hydrant. Now, that could go to some supervisor who schedules that out, or it can automatically go to the crew. Depends on the size of your organization. Maybe the person that does the flow test also does the repairs. I don't know. But in this case, that's what happened. This thing was assigned out, and then some information is transferred over, but then we have additional information related to a new job that we're working on. Okay, so that is the manual process. Now I want to show you kind of how we can speed up these things using the GIS and the workflow designer. So as you can see on this hydrant, we have several options here, and one is reporting a leaking hydrant. So let's say there's a process that happens frequently that we're always doing the same thing. So we want to make it quick and easy for the guy out in the field or the lady out in the field to hit a button and get it done. So in this case, this workflow is set up. So every time you click on report leaking hydrant, it automatically sets up a repair for somebody to go out and fix it. In this case, we have at the top, repair a leaking hydrant. We have it scheduled out. We have materials already attached to it. We have labor already assigned to it. We have equipment that is usually typical for doing that particular job. And so with one button, we're able to make that happen. It's assigned to these particular people who complete that task. So it was pretty quick for somebody out in the field just to report something, but we also had great data that happened as a result of what we clicked. I'm going to switch gears. I want to show you another example in the streets department. So I'm going to turn off my water system layer here, turn on my streets department layer, and we're going to work on some patching of potholes or working on the streets. Now, we had a city that said that I want to be able to give my guy out in the field a map that showed him where he can click on the map where he did a pothole fill and be able to make it very simple and streamlined for that particular person. This workflow was created as a result, okay? There's other workflows up there, and I'm going to show those today. But in this case, we're going to show a patch of pothole because I think this one is pretty neat. So we're identifying on the map where there are problems, where there's issues. And we have some potholes. I'm going to put in 3 here, okay? And I'm going to create work on these 3 potholes. These are the people that do that particular job. So the equipment, how long it took, okay? And then we're done. And then the worker can move on. We just did 3 potholes in about 25 seconds, how long it took for me to click on the map. But here's what's really neat. In the background, each pothole that we identify on the map also geocoded the location of the nearest address and tied it to the road segment, the closest road segment. So we have a total cost for doing that job of $93, but we also can see individually the 3 potholes that we did. So if we go into an individual pothole, we can see that there was $35 allocated to this particular pothole. And the reason for that is we did on the job, he marked 3 different things and did an hour of time, and then the system was able to divide up the materials and the labor amongst those 3 jobs and give us a good cost for just one of those jobs. Here's another example, work on streets. I think this one is pretty neat as well. So we're just going to identify what streets that we're working on. Okay, so here's our 3 streets. Here's the type of work we do for doing street repair, okay? That when you hit that workflow button, it's only going to bring up this sets of information. Now, in this case, I'm going to say we did 2 different types of jobs, and we did this particular employee, this was our equipment, and this is how long it took. Now, in this case, what we did is we created 6 separate records for 3 assets. Because on the map, I selected 3 assets, and then I tied 2 sets of service orders per asset. I was able to accomplish 6 of them in a matter of 34 seconds. So if somebody had to fill out 6 separate work orders, it might take like 10 minutes. But in this case, because I utilized the maps, I was able to speed up that whole process. And a lot of this is you can customize it and work it for your own personal organization. I'm going to switch over here to my sanitary sewer system. Here I have a map that's showing me my sewer lines. The green is identifying sewer lines that have been jetted within a certain amount of time. And the red is telling me the lines that need to be jetted. Okay, so I as a worker can see what I need to do. So if I bring up the GIS in this case, at the very bottom, I'm going to show you that this particular line hasn't been jetted since 2018. And so as a result, on the map, it's going to show as red, okay, and because it needs jetting. So I'm going to do a workflow for jetting this particular line. So I'm going to identify the line I'm working on. In this case, we're just going to do that one particular sewer line, okay? User definable form, collecting just data that is important to what needs to happen, roots, grease, and grit, maybe add some additional notes, and then I'm done. For the guy out in the field, it was quick and easy. But for the person for collecting the work, it also did something very neat. I want to show you. Because I identified on that line, and by the way, my map turned green, as you can see there, because now I've updated this last sewer jet line to actually yesterday. It was the last night in my hotel when I put together this video, okay? So it no longer needs to be jetted, okay? And now that way our map is green. But also, if I look at the work history on this particular line, I can see there's my routine jetting. Because I identify the line as having heavy amounts of grit, I automatically schedule the mechanical rotting truck to come in behind me and clean out that line. So a person didn't have to get on the phone and call somebody. They didn't have to send an email to somebody else. The software that is being utilized is able to take that set of information, and based upon how it was configured, the flexibility of the software automatically triggered other events to happen. In this case, the rotting truck to come behind. All right, so at the end of the day, what are we doing? We're looking at, here's a heat map of how work is entering into the system. We can visualize that data here on the map and get an idea as to how things are progressing, how things are comparing towards, in this case, how much money we're spending on labor versus inventory. But also we're looking at CIP, we're looking at budgeting. This is just a nice little report through in there that shows me what are my assets with the highest business risk. If I have $1 to spend today, where do I need to put that asset? Well, according to this report, it shows me that in these particular assets, based upon the business risk, which is looking at different conditions of criticality and failure and all of that to help develop a business risk, these are my assets that are need to be replaced as soon as, and then we can see over time as things are depreciating and we're looking at replacement repair costs where we might need a budget for upcoming years. I'm going to stop right there. and open it up for questions. If you have any questions, now would be a good time. I know it was a lot. It was a lot of information. Yeah. It's a SQL backend, okay? That particular software is built on Microsoft.net. But yeah, it's open to be able to tap in, and Elements, we don't try, and we let other systems do what they do best, and then we try and integrate with it. So it makes it accessible. So like 811 tickets, coming in, where we're taking that information, drawing it up on the up on the map, or utility billing or something like that. We're pulling that information in and getting us reads that might trigger somebody to go out and change out a meter or something to that effect. Good question. Thanks.
Normally have implementations. They pull the data from existing work orders. They pull it from a different management system. Where's it coming from to populate data?
Okay, so if we're taking over a system that's already been there, we are migrating data over from the old system into our system. If it's historical data, we're storing it in our database. If it's updating details of the asset, then we're just updating ArcGIS information. So the data is in different cases, but for the historical data, we're keeping it in our database, which is accessible in many different ways. And if somebody decides to leave us, heaven forbid, they can always take that data with them. So it could be either on-prem or in the cloud, depending on your security that you want. So, yeah. Any other questions along that lines? It's good questions. Good question. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We're just looking at the REST services. So it can be Portal, it can be AGL. We still have some customers on Enterprise. But we do recognize, or we do use the name user license, unless they have Enterprise or something like that. So, yeah, for maps out in the field, they need some type of license, ArcGIS license, to be able to utilize those maps. Didn't show you, we also track non-spatial assets like, fleet, trucks, facilities, things like that. Things that are not typically in your geo database. So,
the data from Element Access can be pulled in ArcGIS and applied to make maps for public dissemination based on the data in the asset management software.
Yeah, that's a great question. And if I can skip ahead here, I can show you also. So here is an operations dashboard that is pulling information from Elements into Esri's platform. So it could be insights, what have you. So this is reading information from our system inside of ArcGIS. So yeah, that is a goal, to make sure that those two systems talk to each other. And so then you can, of course, create a public-facing map or something like that might say that these are, the potholes that we are working on at this time. So you can actually see what potholes have been finished in the last, week or so. But I think that's all the time I have. If you have any further questions, I do have a booth. Thank you for coming and visiting.